ice in zone 9B. It got cold. Hi guys, welcome back. I'm Ashley and welcome to my garden. Today we're going to take a little tour around and see everything that did not like the freeze that came through. Here in Florida we got 2 days of freezing temperatures, got below 32, got to 28 one night in Central Florida, and the plants didn't like it. We grow a lot of subtropical, tropical plants here. We can. Our winter here is a lot like spring in some northern places, so we can grow all through the winter. However, when a really cold temperature comes through, some things like these tropical banana trees, not happy. So we are going to look around and see what survived and what didn't. So a lot of the stuff that I had growing was not happy at all during the cold weather. I'll show you some things that actually did really well before I show you all of the bad news, the things that they were not happy. So something that actually did really well that I did not cover, I didn't do anything to protect, was our lemon trees. Like, I didn't even take the lemons off, which I should have, supposedly, to save them from the cold, but I mean, they didn't get brown, all the lemons are happy, so I mean, they were virtually unaffected, which I was surprised since they're citrus and you associate that with, like, you know, warm weather. But they, I mean, maybe because they're so big, because they're massive trees now, so they held on, so that was good. I like to leave my lemons on the tree as long as possible. Like these guys in here, like you can see them all through, should have probably been picked like, I don't know, a month or two ago, but I look at it as like almost preservation. Like if I leave them on the tree, they're not gonna go bad, and then I can just pick them whenever I want. When they do start to look a little odd, like this one, a little brown, a little wrinkly, I do start to pick them, and you can always freeze them. Just frozen lemons are not quite as fresh as the fresh ones. Like they lose texture. Like the texture of a frozen lemon when you squeeze it is very squishy. It loses that, like I guess the firmness of the pulp inside, and then it also loses some of its sour, some of its bite. So it's a lot sweeter, which if you like that, if you don't like the sour in a lemon, then maybe you do want to blanch them and freeze them. So that might be a route you want to go. But something else that did really, really great was the broccoli. The broccoli did so good. Like, look at the broccoli. Look how happy it is. This is the best broccoli I have ever gotten, and probably because I started it so much earlier. Like all the other years, I started it in January, and by the time it got anywhere, it was starting to get warm. You know, by March it's getting pretty warm, and you know, obviously these are cold-loving winter vegetables, so they're fine in the cold. They love it. They thrive. They also don't mind the warm days. Like I've noticed a lot of growth on warm days, but then, you know, they were not affected at all. Even we had little ones. Like I planted the bigger ones. I started these at different times, and the biggest ones are down there, coming down this way. And these are little ones, and they were not affected as well, even though their size. So the broccoli, and this isn't all broccoli, it's broccoli and cauliflower. I got them all mixed up, so it's a surprise what's what. At this stage, they all look the same pretty much. So something else that was completely unaffected was our strawberries. The weeds have kind of taken over this area, but you can see all the bright green leaves in there. Those are all our strawberries. We actually lost some during the summer in the heat, but they seem to be doing just fine with all the cold. But we haven't seen any strawberries since the summer. Okay, so this is our banana, and as you can see, it really did not like the hard freeze that we got. We got a freeze 2 days in a row, and somebody's calling me. Okay. And it did not like it. Like, obviously the first day I did cover these. I actually used drop cloth, like for painting, to cover these, and the first day it looked great. It was green, it was happy, everything was great. And then the next day it froze. It started to look a little sad. The next day the temperatures were below 40. Didn't quite freeze, but it was below 40 during the day and close to 30, in the 30s at night. So it is sad. It actually looked even worse than this because there was none of this green coming up. But it looks like the green is coming back, right? This new leaf is shooting up and it looks good. The little tip looks a little burned. That was probably the tip that was exposed down here, but I mean, I think it's fine. I did not cut any of these leaves off yet because I wanted to let it rest. I didn't want to do anything shocking. It already went through a freeze, so I don't want to re-traumatize it by cutting off everything prematurely. But it's been about 2 weeks and this green is really starting to shoot up, so I am going to take off some of these dead leaves, but I'm only going to do it where they're bent. So like here, because here is still green and still, you know, stiff, whereas this is like limp and squishy. So I don't want to remove anything that's still living and helping the plant to thrive. So I'm just going to clip off these limp little things off our beautiful banana tree. This is actually the first year that we've grown bananas, so this is really sad because I was so excited about them. But they're okay. If anything, it'll just delay when we get bananas. So you know what? These things are so dull. I need my other ones. Okay, we're back, and I'm just gonna use scissors because these are really sharp, and I have them right here. So we're just gonna cut off this dead stuff. Again, I'm leaving these spines because they're still strong, and I just don't want to traumatize the plant. I'll probably have to cut them off at some later point, but I don't want to do anything that's going to shock it any more than it's already been shocked by the cold. So all that banana juice coming out. Like super juicy in there. Bananas actually have liquid that comes out when you cut them. I've seen people like put buckets under it when they like hack the whole thing down and just catch the juice in there. I actually don't know too much about the juice. I don't know, is it edible? I'm not sure. If it wasn't edible, I'm sure though it would make a really good like compost tea or throw in your compost, you know. So I'm sure it's got some kind of nutrients in it. Oh, this poor thing. Cut it right here where it's bent. Clearly, banana is a tropical because I can't see anyone who gets like a real winter with snow and stuff being able to keep one of these outside. Like, I just don't see it happening because 2 nights of cold and this guy just was not happy. Like right now outside it's 51. The high today is 72. Which is plenty warm, but those highs of 40, it just not happy. So this looks a little limp, but it's hanging on there. So also these, since they were so dead and wet, we're starting to get a little bit of mold, so that's not good. Definitely want to get that away from the plants and the other plants. Okay, so now I have all of these. Now, since it has the mold growing on it, I probably don't want to lay this directly on any of my beds, like mulch. Unless like I could lay it in the sun and let it totally fry and crispy and do that. So either I'll use it like that, or I will just throw it into the compost and make some banana compost, because there's so much of it. So now let's talk about somebody who survived the cold but did not like it. Did not like it one bit. This is the avocado. Yeah. The top of it, obviously, you know, it was highest up, furthest from the ground, so the heat was emanating from the ground. That's why you cover it, because ground stays warmer than the air. So you cover it, and then you're almost creating like a little greenhouse effect. So the heat comes up from the ground, and then it fills your covering and keeps it warm. So the stuff lower down stays warmer than the stuff up top. So this part looks sad, and I think I am going to cut off all these little branches up here. Just sad because it's gotten so tall, but avocado stems are generally bright green, and these have all turned brown, the stem themselves, not just the leaves. So I think I'm going to clip those off and give it just a little bit of a pruning, maybe stimulate some growth. So Florida is really amazing in that we can grow things pretty much all year round. Actually, yeah, all year round, because some things, you know, survived. However, you need to keep in mind what you're planting, because once in a while, most of the time, our winters are pretty predictable, but sometimes we will get a really cold winter, or an even hotter winter than normal. So depending on what you're planting, it may affect things. If you're planting things that are extremely tropical, they don't like the cold. So before you plant those things, you may want to think, okay, if a really cold day comes, either how am I going to protect these things, or I'm okay with them dying, or maybe I don't want to plant that at all to waste my time when, you know, it's just gonna die. So, and some things are experiments. I actually left some plants out that were nearing the end of their life, that I was going to plant new ones anyway, just because I'm like, let's experiment. Let's see what the freeze does to them. Do they survive? Do they not survive? So, as far as the herbs go, all of my oregano did so good. It did fabulous. Actually, I'm going to show you the oregano. Okay, so this is our wild kind of herb bed here. This is just some bib lettuce. I have a really hard time getting bib lettuce to grow in my area. I thought maybe it was just a summer issue, but it's winter and it's just not happy. So I don't think I'm going to grow this variety anymore. I'm not even that fond of bib lettuce. I prefer like the frilly kinds of lettuces, which I can't think of the name right now. I planted a bunch, and I also have a bunch of romaines that I planted. But things like mustard grains, these things are so just versatile and strong. Like, these things look like this in the summer, and so I thought, okay, they live the heat so much, they're going to die in the winter. But it got cold, it froze, and they look amazing still. So I would say that this mustard is like, I would almost call it like a survival crop. Like, it's just so happy and it just thrives. And with pretty much, I mean, I've put this in places where I haven't even fertilized or anything, and it still looks this beautiful. So mustard is a definite must. Haha, mustard must. Okay. Now some people, it's more bitter than lettuce, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it as a salad, but it's great on like a sandwich, a hamburger, something that has a lot more substance to it. Or I use mine on like spinach. I just fry it up and cook it with eggs, or chicken or something like that. But what we really came to talk about for the herbs. So this is lemon mint, and that was super happy, right? Super happy. This is peppermint. This guy never really took off. He's like all through here in little bits. He stayed really small, but he didn't die. He certainly lived. But this is the oregano. Like, it is just crawling over the side, so happy. And it was like this in the summer. So it survived the Florida heat and it survived the Florida freeze. So this is a definite keeper all year round. The thyme also survived. It's looking a little sad, but we got new little sprigs, so perfectly happy still. The herb that absolutely did not make it was the basil. I had so much basil. I had all different kinds. I had bush spicy basil, I had Genovese basil, I had lettuce leaf basil. The Genovese is my favorite, so I had lots of it. And it all died. I mean, that thing was like crispy. Like, I could come out and just like touch the leaves and they would just brittle, crispify, break off. Basil does not like the cold apparently, so but that's easy to grow. It grows back quickly. It's easy to get seeds off of, so that's okay. But knowing this in the future, I have to make sure I know that if it gets cold, basil is an annual crop. It will not stick around. Otherwise, it pretty much just grows and grows. So basil was one of those things that we do not have right now because it's all died. And I didn't take it in because, again, I had it a long time and I wanted to see what would happen. So it was kind of like an experiment. So this next one really surprised me. Although in hindsight it probably shouldn't have, because this thing thrived during the summer. But because of what it is, I thought for sure it was going to love the cold weather because it is a leaf crop. It is my Ciso spinach, my perennial spinach bush. So obviously I still have some, right? Still got some. And this thing was a bush, like this big around, fluffy during the summer. And this is what it looks like now. Is it even there? Yes, it is. So this is all the black mushy stuff that I got from the freeze. But I do have some new growth down there too. It's coming back. But it hated the cold, which really surprised me because spinach is like a cold weather crop. But I guess this particular variety, I guess maybe because it's perennial, I don't know, it did not like it. Okay, it survived, but it wasn't happy. And I didn't cover this because I assumed it's spinach, it'll be okay. Next year I'm going to cover it because I don't want to risk losing it because it's so good. It's so awesome to have a spinach year-round, a bush. You always have it. It's a little thicker, I would say, and tougher than like traditional spinach. Like, it's not so light and fluffy. As the leaves get bigger, the young leaves are a little thinner and fluffier. To me, it's like a perfect hybrid between an artichoke and a spinach, like that kind of texture, like a little bit of a bite. Once it's cooked, there's no difference. Like, you would not know that versus regular spinach when you cook it all down. So, and then the sweet potatoes. You can't even see them anymore. This was so beautiful. I think I showed you guys in another video I did. It was so beautiful. In fact, I'll probably insert pictures here. And it had grown even more during December. It was trailing out, and I was going to actually cut some and put it in the front beds as like a ground cover and get sweet potatoes. And these things died. They died. They died. Like, that's not happy. I mean, this one has a little bit of green left. So I'm gonna leave them. And just see what happens, because I don't have plans to put anything else there. So we're just gonna go with it. And do you guys want to see my blueberry stick? It's a blueberry stick. It's not a blueberry bush. It's a blueberry stick. A stick. It lost all its leaves. which I'm surprised. I don't know too much about blueberries, to be honest. I got it either in the spring or summer and just kind of planted it and forgot about it. But aren't blueberries supposed to like the cold? Don't they like supposedly not do well here because they like the cold? I know this is a variety grown for Florida, but still, I thought that they would. I don't know. Like the winter? They don't like the winter. Like, this is a stick. It's a stick. Are these gonna come back? I don't know. We're gonna find out. The next victim was our passion vine. These were beautiful vines. Passion fruit. And they were victimized. But, I mean, obviously this one is tropical. We know this one's tropical. So not really a surprise there. In fact, I clipped off some of the vines before it came because I knew that it probably wouldn't make it. But actually, it's coming back. See that up there? See that green? It's coming back. Yay. So this will fill back out, which actually maybe it's good that it died back some because it was getting kind of out of control. It has like taken over the tree. Most of those leaves are not leaves from this tree, but they are passion fruit leaves. And it's gotten so cold, some of the leaves actually changed colors. Look. That doesn't happen here. Crazy. Okay, and then we have our other banana tree. This one, I'm not worried about this one because I don't know if you guys can see. Like, it's got a lot of green. Like, it has a lot more green under here. And I'm not going to clip these back yet like I did that one because although this has more green, it hasn't quite pushed out as much as that one. So again, I don't want to shock it, and I'll kind of wait and see if that one reacted well to me pruning it. So again, experiments. Gardening is a lot of experiments. Like, you can read all the articles you want about gardening, and it's helpful. It gives you like a jumping off point, but every neighborhood almost has its own microclimate, like depending on if you're up high or down low, you have a lot of houses, you have a lot of trees, your plants are close to the house, far away from the house. That will affect everything. So what might work well for me might not work well for someone 5 miles down the road. And it depends on the way their land is, you know, their soil, everything, the health of their plants, the age of their plants. So it's really good to watch videos and do research to learn how things grow in your area, but then you got to experiment for yourself. You got to find out what grows best in my yard, in my area. So it's always learning, and that's kind of what's exciting because it's never, you know, growing things, nature is not predictable. So that keeps it interesting and fresh, even if you're growing the same things. You know, I like to grow a lot of new varieties and try new things, but even growing the same varieties, it's really interesting to me to see how they fare. Like, I grew basil. You know, that was probably one of the first things that I started with was basil, and I've never seen it freeze and die like that because we haven't really hit a full freeze probably in a couple years. So now I know that that's what happens. Okay, what else? What else has died? Okay, the grapes. The grapes, I am going to say to be determined. So they are just a stick now, but I know grapes do that. Like last year, the grapes, this is only my second year growing grapes. I've never actually gotten grapes because they're little baby plants, but last year it was all sticks, and I just didn't getting around to taking it down. I thought it was fully dead, and lo and behold, spring came and all of my sticks started sprouting leaves, and this kind of like took over this trellis thing. Like, these are all grapevines intertwining, so the freeze is what killed them. And then also we had to wash our roof. We live in an HOA and we had to wash our roof. Anyway, so there's a lot of chemicals used on the roof, and that was not good. So anything that is in the down/slash area of the house got some of those chemicals on them. So this was had already lost its leaves, but I don't know how much those chemicals damaged my plants here. So that was a major bummer. But I mean, we've lived here 7 years and we've never washed the roof before. We've never had to wash the roof before. So I don't imagine this happening again for at least another 7 years. So, but I'm actually going to do a separate video on how I am going to heal the soil that was exposed to said chemicals. So, okay, this was my Thunbergia. There's a chair. This is my Thunbergia. I was so proud of my Thunbergia. It was so beautiful. And my dream here was it to go all the way over the arch and come down like something fantasy out of Lord of the Rings. So pretty. It looked amazing. Thunbergia does not like the cold. It does not like the cold. It hates it. It just, I mean, the first night it just did this. Like it's crispy. It's dead. It's crispy. But the good thing is there is goodness out of this. So I was questioning before the freeze came how I was going to save the seeds. I could not find the seeds on them because this thing was full and bushy and I didn't understand. I was like, and I thought this was my very last seed from my seed packet because I had a horrible time germinating these. So this was the only one that germinated, and I actually do have 3 other seeds left, but after it died and I came out here, I realized, where's one, that there are these little pods that were not evident when it was alive, and inside these little pods are Thunbergia seeds. That's a Thunbergia seed. So I have tons and tons of pods on here, and I've already collected some. So I have more Thunbergia seeds than I could ever possibly want. So I highly recommend you guys look into collecting seeds from plants you have. So even though this was the very last one, well, the only one I got to grow, and then I only had 3 seeds left, out of a whole seed packet, I can now have unlimited virtually Thunbergia. And I love these. They didn't attract wasps, they attracted some bees, and they were just really tame. They did not get out of control like, say, a cypress vine would. So I will be growing a new one, and I'm going to straighten this arch because I wanted it a little crookedy. I didn't want it to be perfectly symmetrical, but it got really weighed down as it grew, so I just need to support it better. Okay, so those are the things that were killed by the freeze. Lots of stuff is fine because I took it inside. All those guys were coming inside and hanging out with us for Christmas Eve and Christmas. So I had all my plants inside. But, so they're all fine. I protected them because I wasn't going to take the chance with the babies because this is the spring garden. This is so much stuff. So, okay, that's it. So I just wanted to give you guys an update on how my garden did during the freeze. How did y'all's do? Those in Central Florida, South Florida, North Florida, how did y'all's garden do? Let me know. Also, if you have any tips or tricks to what you do where you plant your things to keep them safer in the freeze or for cold weather, and then also preparing for hot weather. We get such extremes here. It's hard to judge, right? It gets so hot during the summer, but then a lot of those things can't take the cold. So it's like, where do you plant things? It's always an evolving question. Anyway, so I have been jibber-jabbering enough. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.
I'm driving, you're smiling.